let's begin with this topic. As you know very well that we have done our three chapters very completely: solid state, solution, and the electrochemistry. Okay, and I have also told you that we have the two chapters in our unit test one. So I'm just going to take you for the revision of our unit test one syllabus, so that it would be easy for you to maintain a high score in your test. Okay. Moreover, if I want to convey about the chapter the solution, this is very important and crucial topic for your board exam also. Okay, the solution is something which could become even of the 6 to 7 marks. It depends upon the exam pattern in the marking. Clear? Now the point here is, but as we are going to revise, I'm not going to take you from the very initial or from the introduction of the solution topic. Okay, let's begin with the main topic of the solution chapter, so that we would cover our complete chapter in a very short period of time. All right, so let's begin. See, as you know, solution is something which is a mixture of solute and solvent, and it's a state which is known to be liquid, or we can say solute plus solvent. Our solvent could be liquid, but our solute could be solid, liquid, or gas, or any one of them. Okay. Now the point here is, if we want to define that what is solution and why do we need to revise them, the basic information is, first of all, we have to put the concentration. We have to check out whether the concentration of a solution that can be expressed in many forms. Okay, so we have done the molarity, normality, mole fraction, and we have parts per million ppm. Clear? Now I'm just taking to you as the exam pattern the question from the molarity. Molarity, you know what is the definition of molarity? That is number of moles of solute dissolved in 1 liter of the solvent, right? Whereas molarity is something which is number of moles of solute dissolved in 1 kg of the solvent. Sorry, it's solution over here. Clear? Same as it is normality, which is something which can be defined as number of gram equivalent dissolved in 1000 ml of the solution. Okay. Now the point is, there is a question that is very important. It could be either in 1 marks or 2 marks. The question is, out of these, which are the quantities which is independent upon the temperature? I'm again repeating. The question is, which quantity is independent of the temperature? Very important question. Just in 1 marks or 2 marks, either in MCQ or in short answer question. See, as you know, molarity is something in which the number of moles of solute dissolved in 1 liter. Okay. Whereas if I'm talking about the molality, this is something which is dissolved in 1 kg of the solvent. So we know very well that whenever we change the temperature, whether we increase or decrease the temperature, what happens? Due to change in temperature, my number of molecules, they would start coming close to each other, or we can say, sorry, not coming too close to each other. Their kinetic energy would increase and they would start breaking the bond between them. So I would like to say that due to increase in temperature, more affected than the solid one. I'm again repeating, due to increase in temperature, my liquid is easily affected than my solid. So due to these reasons, I would like to say molality is independent of the temperature as molarity. That's why we prefer molality, that is small m rather than capital M, because capital M is easily changed by the temperature. Clear? Another point is mole fraction. Mole fraction is just ratio of number of moles. You know very well now the definition of mole fraction. That is number of moles of solute 1 divided by number of moles of solute and so on. This is known to be mole fraction. Okay. Now the point is, as we know, mole fraction is a ratio and it could be easily changed. It's just a number. It doesn't have any kind of quantity or unit or something. So mole fraction is also independent upon the temperature. These two quantities are independent of the temperature. Okay, so we have done one important point, that is which quantity is independent of temperature. Besides that, we can say what is the quantity which doesn't have unit, and you know that very well. This is our mole fraction because this is just a ratio. Now let's move to our next point. We have a quantity known as parts per million. What's the definition of parts per million? It is defined as we are checking the quantity in very small way, that is in the ratio of 10 raised to power 6. Okay, so we are checking our quantity, that suppose we are having number of moles of solute, they have been suspended or dissolved into such large quantity of solvent or solute, that is millions, 10 raised to power 6. Okay, so if we need to check the quantity of pollutants, this can be expressed only in parts per million. Okay, for pollutants which have been suspended in our environment, they are of so much small quantity, so much small, we can say they're present in the environment, we can express them only in the form of parts per million. Clear? So this is also an example or a point which is very important for you. Now let's begin with the main topic, that is my Henry's law and Rolle's law. Okay, what is Henry's law? Of the expression of concentration of solution. You know that very well. How can we express the concentration of solution? We have taken the example of mole fraction, molarity, normality, and many more. And I have given you small important points which are very important for your MCQ questions for your board exam, like which quantity is independent of temperature, or which quantity is unitless, or which method of expressing the concentration is used for taking the value of pollutants, that is parts per million. Okay, now let's move with the main topic, that is our Henry's law. Actually, Henry was a scientist who told us about the solubility. He expressed that how a gas is soluble into a liquid. I'm again repeating. Henry gave us an expression how a gas is soluble in liquid. Okay. Now the point is, whenever we have to explain it, we have to come to know that first of all, there is pressure which is directly proportional to solubility. According to Henry, solubility is directly proportional to pressure. Okay. Moreover, there was a scientist named to be Dalton. Dalton told us that actually this is not pressure, this is the partial pressure which is directly proportional to solubility. So he changed my unit by solubility directly proportional to partial pressure, which Henry also agreed with the topic that yes, it is partial pressure which is directly proportional to solubility. Moreover, when he wanted to express the complete derivation or gave the Henry's law in a particular statement, he told that I'm taking my solubility in mole fraction. That means he is expressing the solubility in mole fraction of a gas. Hence, according to him, X is directly proportional to P. And whenever we remove the proportionality constant, we get P equals to KHX. This is known to be Henry's law. According to Henry's law, the partial pressure is directly proportional to the mole fraction of the gas, or we can say the solubility of the gas, which both are interrelated to each other. And by removing the proportionality constant, we can get the Henry's constant known as KH. Okay, now the point is you do not need to remember the values of KH, because KH is something which is dependent upon the nature. Dependent upon the nature of, we can say, solute or solvent. That means which gas is dissolving into it, or which kind of solution we are taking. It depends on the KH. And it is variable. It's not a constant. It's variable. The value of KH keeps changing due to the change of nature of solute or solvent. Okay. But the best point is, whenever if you get any kind of numerical on it, you would be given the KH value. Okay. All right. So this was Henry's law. But as we know, as we keep moving with further. This law has been almost replaced by the Rolle's law, which states us. Let's begin with the next topic, that is Rolle's law. Okay. He told us, Rolle's law ने हमें बताया कि whenever we are dissolving any kind of solute into a solution, what's happening? We're checking out the vapor pressure of that particular solvent. So we want to know whether we are dissolving a solute into solvent. After some time, the vapor pressure of solvent, whether it is volatile or non-volatile, how is it related with the mole fraction? Okay, I'm again repeating. First point is, a volatile solvent is something which can be easily evaporated. You know that very well, which can be evaporated. Volatile liquids, the partial vapor pressure of each component is directly proportional to the mole fraction of that particular solute. Okay, so according to him, P1 is directly proportional to X1. Now, when we remove the proportionality constant, we get P1 equals to P1 naught X1, where P1 naught explains the partial vapor pressure of pure solvent, where P1 is something in which solute and solvent has been dissolved. I'm writing this one. Partial vapor pressure of solvent and P1 naught is pure solvent partial vapor pressure. Clear? Now, this is something when we have one component. Same as it is, we have the two component. Suppose this is solvent. Same as it is, we have the solute also. So our equation has now become changed to P2 equals to P2 naught X2. Give me a second, please. Clear? We have the two different components, the P1 and the P2. That means we have the two different solute, two different components. Now, what happens if we want to, arrange them? We need to get the total partial vapor pressure, that is P, which is equals to P1 plus P2. We would just, and we know very well that whenever we need to calculate the mole fraction, it tells us that the mole fraction of 2 or 3 components, that is equals to 1. Am I clear or no? This is the point you have studied in the mole fraction, that whenever we need to check, the value of this one, they have the equal sum of x1 plus x2 equal. So can we write x1 equals to 1 minus x2? We can change it by P equals to P1 naught 1 minus x2 plus P2 naught x2. So what would we get? Plus P2 naught x2, or we can say P equals to P1 naught minus, plus P2 naught minus P1 naught x2. This is given by the Rolle's law. That means it has told us that the total vapor pressure is equal to the sum of the partial vapor pressure and its mole fraction plus partial vapor pressure of another component multiplied to its mole fraction. Clear? Now, we have done the concept about the Rolle's law. Now, what are the benefits of Rolle's law? How can we apply them? What are its advantage, or how can we use them for our further elaboration? So we can use our Rolle's law for checking out the two different type of solution known as ideal and non-ideal solution. Let's start with ideal and non-ideal solution. Okay. One more point, bache. See, this is my Rolle's law, and if we need to express it by graphical method, what would be happen? We can just have a graph between the partial vapor pressure and the mole fraction that we have. Suppose this is mole fraction, and this is my partial vapor pressure. Now, whenever we have a graph, we have a relation between the two, the partial vapor pressure and the mole fraction. We know very well that we have two components, P1 naught and P2 naught. Suppose at the y-axis, there is P1 naught. If there is P1 naught equals to 1, suppose, then P2 naught is equals to 0. Because at one axis, we have possibility of only one component. This you have also studied in your mathematical notebook in mathematics. Sorry, not P1 naught, the mole fraction. P1 naught could not be equal to 1. That is, we have taken the P1 naught. If we are taking the P2 naught, that means the partial vapor pressure when we have x1 and x2 equals to 1. Now let's move to our next topic, that is which is known to be ideal and non-ideal solution. Let's start. Okay, now the first point is whenever we need to study the ideal and non-ideal solution, we have to differentiate them. Ideal solution is defined which obeys the Rolle's law. Whereas if I'm talking about the non-ideal solution, this is something which doesn't obey the Rolle's law. Okay, so let's have a look between the ideal and non-ideal solution. Okay, let's start first of all with the ideal solution, which obey Rolle's law. Second, other important given by it is delta mixing volume is equals to 0 and delta mixing enthalpy is equals to 0. According to the definition of ideal solution, if we are mixing two different components, the change in the heat 0. That means the reaction is not even exothermic, not even endothermic. So it seems little absurd because this is impractically impossible. Moreover, if I'm talking about the delta mixing V, it suggests that whenever we are mixing the two solution, the two components, there is no change in the volume also. That means if I have taken the 5 ml and I'm dissolving it into the 5 ml of another component, we will get totally 10 ml of solution. But practically this is little bit impossible because we can say that in these two components, either if I'm talking about the delta mixing V or delta mixing H, we know that very well due to some man-made reasons, or we can say due to some natural reasons, there is always a difference, there is always a slash between the two. Okay, so I would like to say that if I'm talking about the ideal solution, both which follows all the condition, this is little rare to find. Okay, but we have some example like N-hexane and N-benzene, the solution of the two. Okay, now the point is we have done this in the theoretical form, that they obey Rolle's law, the mixing, the change in delta mixing V and the change in delta mixing H, that is equals to 0. Now the point is how can we arrange it in the form of molecules, है ना? मतलब हम कैसे बोल सकते हैं in the form of molecular interaction that they are the ideal solution. See, according to ideal solution, if there are two components A and B, and the AA interaction and the BB interaction is equal to AB interaction. That means if we have two components, hexane and benzene, both are liquid, we know very well. So according to them, hexane-hexane interaction is benzene interaction. And hence there would be not any kind of repulsion, or we can say not any kind of change in vapor pressure whenever we start to heat them, or whenever we start to keep them for long time. There would be no volatile solvent which would be start evaporating, there would be change in vapor pressure, any kind of this, because according to them the molecules have the same interaction, they have the same bonding between two components. Clear? So this is something explained by ideal solution. But if we need to go about the non-ideal solution, this is almost totally, which can be expressed as I just want to rub this topic. Let's say you have come to know that ideal solution are those solutions which are very rare to find. Okay, so there are only very few examples which seems very easy, like we can say benzene toluene. Both are made up of benzene ring and they have almost same interaction. If I have given the example of you hexane or hexane and heptane. N-hexane and heptane, if I'm talking, that means the both are in the linear chain and they have the same interaction. Okay. Now, same example, let me move with the non-ideal solution. These are those solutions which do not obey the Rolle's law. Moreover, the delta mixing V is not equals to 0 and delta mixing H is also not equals to 0, which is quite practical because there is always any kind of change in volume and enthalpy. Clear? Now, whenever we have talked about the non-ideal solution, it has represent that they do not obey the Rolle's law. That means there is any kind of deviation from the Rolle's law. If I'm looking at, suppose there is any positive deviation from Rolle's law, and another one is negative deviation from Rolle's law. These are the two types of non-ideal solution. Okay, and if I want to convey it in the form of Rolle's law, the Rolle's law has told us that P1 is equals to P1 naught x1. That means is greater than P1 naught x1, whereas P1 is less than P1 naught x1. In this case, we can say they are showing the positive and the negative deviation from Rolle's law. Okay. Obey the rules, do not obey the Rolle's law, and the main equation is this. But what about the molecular interaction? As we have seen in the ideal solution, the AA and BB interaction must be equal to AB. That means the interaction between the first component and the second component, that must be equal to the interaction between the 2 moles of the same component. Okay. The solution would not show that because it's showing any kind of deviation. That we will see on the basis of molecular attraction, the 2 types on our tomorrow's class. Okay. So if there is any kind of doubt or query, please let me know regarding this topic we have done. Mix करने के बाद में एंथैल्पी में कोई चेंज आता है, they are totally perfect. आपने एक टर्म सुनी होगी आइडियल गैस, है ना? In 11th class, I think in 11th class you have studied about the ideal gas and the van der Waals gas. Okay, I'm sorry, that would be in the 4th, 5th chapter. Yes, in 11th class, ideal gas कौन सी थी? That was known to be the perfect gas which obeys all the laws. और हमने ऐसा बोला था कि to found a ideal gas is almost impossible. So same as it is, if I'm talking about the ideal solution, they obey the Rolle's law. अगर वो Rolle's law को follow कर रहे हैं और उनके बीच में delta mixing V as well as delta mixing H is equals to 0, that means there is no kind of any chance to show the deviation. अगर वो उस बात पे stick कर रहे हैं तो उनके बीच में deviation होने का option ही नहीं है. They will not show any kind of positive or negative deviation. एक तो twist है that they are called ideal solution. Whereas non-ideal solution, they will show the positive and negative. Am I clear, बच्चे?
Yes, ma'am.